Welcome to the We Talk Health Podcast, the official podcast for West Tennessee Healthcare. Please be advised that this podcast is not intended to replace any medical advice. Always follow your medical professional's advice and direction. Nothing said in this podcast is intended to supersede or supplement the direction of your medical caretakers. If you have any questions, please reach out to us at wetalkhealthpodcast@gmail.com, and we will do our best to answer any questions you may have.
Welcome to another episode of We Talk Health. My name is Will Kwasigroh, and joining me in the studio today is Allison Haynes. Allison Haynes is recently MS, congratulations, RD and LDN, and she is an outpatient dietitian down at the Lift. Allison, how's it going?
It's going good. How
Good.
are you?
I'm pretty good. So Allison is here today to talk about a recipe that she made throughout the year of 2021. You guys may have noticed that we're doing some cooking videos and doing podcasts along with those. And Allison made some really delicious Greek kebabs. The main focus of it was chicken and bell peppers, onions, and zucchini. Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
I was fortunate enough to be on the video crew whenever we filmed, and I got to taste said food, and it was delicious. It was probably my favorite one that we filmed in that day. So thanks for making some good food.
Yeah, that's what I'm here for.
That's what you do. It's kind of your thing.
Mm-hmm.
Well, cool. We wanted to talk about the recipe and why we're posting it in May. So May is Stroke Month, and there are several tips that Allison has for us, maybe possibly prevent a stroke just with the food that you're eating. So Allison, let's go ahead and dive into it.
Yeah, absolutely. So the nutrition therapy for stroke prevention is pretty similar to what we already talked about in our February podcast for heart health. There are just a few things that are just slightly different, though. In general, we want to encourage whole grains, fruits and veggies, and lean protein sources, and definitely still limiting our sodium intake.
That's definitely a hard thing to do in the South because we like our salt.
It can be, but I'm trying to give some good options so we
sure.
don't have to rely so much on the salt. One of the things that's different about stroke prevention that's, I guess it's more focused on than in like heart health is we want to encourage potassium intake because it can help reduce your blood pressure.
Oh, I didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah. So some fruits and veggies that are high in potassium, like zucchini, tomatoes, sweet potatoes, or even banana, all of those, if we incorporate them, they can help reduce your blood pressure.
I didn't know that.
Fun facts.
Start eating some more sweet potatoes.
So I mentioned that we want to reduce our sodium intake. One way that we can reduce our sodium intake is by just looking at the label, making sure, we're trying to find foods that have less than 300 milligrams per serving. Now, this recipe is another great example of how to flavor your food with using minimal salt. I know it's only like 10% of the sodium that we take in comes from when you're salting food at the table. So if you want to reduce your sodium intake when you're cooking, try to leave the salt out when you're cooking and just apply it right before you start to eat your food.
Okay. That's a good tip.
Yeah. So we use plenty of herbs, spices, and foods like lemon to give the food flavor. And in this specific recipe, we have oregano, basil, thyme, coriander, dill, garlic, always my favorite.
Oh, of course. Absolutely.
And we have lemon and vinegar. So like all these spices, the lemon, the vinegar, it's going to give it plenty of flavor.
Sure.
So, the salt it's okay if you're missing out on it a little
right.
bit.
Right. The flavor will definitely be made up elsewhere.
Another thing that I'd mentioned earlier about the lean protein sources, we do want to eat fat-free and low-fat dairy and protein sources. This dish kind of highlights that by using the low-fat Greek yogurt, which the low-fat Greek yogurt is going to contain more protein than like the normal yogurt.
Oh, I didn't realize that.
Yeah, so if you're trying to get some more protein in, that's a great way. The Greek yogurt is going to have a little bit different consistency. It's going to be maybe thicker. Some people say it tastes like sour cream, so I've actually used it as sour cream, like on nachos or something like that.
Wow.
More protein, less fat than the actual sour cream.
Me personally, I'm not a big fan of sour cream or Greek yogurt.
Really?
It's just a consistency thing for me, I think. Just like creamy food, just not a big fan. I will say, I did try the tzatziki sauce that you made, and it was actually pretty good.
I was going to ask you about that. I know, but it's got so much cucumber and like lemon and other things in it. The consistency doesn't stand out as much.
I would agree. When I had it, I had to tell my brain, like, all right, man, just taste it. Don't get caught up in the way, in the texture of it. And the flavor was good. I still had a little bit of like a texture, just the creaminess of it. I'm just not a major fan of that. But I mean, if you're dipping the chicken that we'll talk about in just a second into it with the vegetables, the flavor combo,
exactly,
texture is going to change because of the chicken and the veggies.
Yeah.
Mixed in with the sauce. So it was very good. I very much enjoyed it.
Yeah, and I mean, chicken, I used chicken for the recipe in February as well. I mean, I do love chicken, but I love that it's a great lean protein source, but it's also really versatile. And like most people use chicken in some way, shape, or form for at least some kind of meal. So it's familiar as well, because this dish is a little bit out of some people's comfort zones, for sure.
Sure.
So using something like chicken kind of makes it feel more familiar.
That's a good observation. I feel like the last 3 videos that we've done. So like you did these chicken kebabs. Haley did chana masala, which is an Indian dish.
And was delicious.
It was amazing. I loved Indian food. And then Crystal did the turkey taco lettuce wraps, which personally, turkey and taco don't really belong in the same sentence. Whenever I hear that together, I was like, okay. But trying them, I mean, all 3 recipes were absolutely fantastic.
They're kind of out of the comfort zone.
Yeah, so they're definitely out of the comfort zone of what you might consider quote-unquote normal foods that you would normally eat. But I think that's kind of like a main reason why we're doing these, is because we just want to encourage people to get out of your comfort zone.
Yeah.
Try new things. Try healthy things that you might otherwise not, because you don't necessarily think it's going to be tasty.
Yeah. Exactly. And so I've tried it, you've tried it, you know, whoever was there on filming day, everybody's tried the food. We at least get a couple approvals before you get the recipe at home.
Absolutely. 10 out of 10 would definitely recommend. So let's go ahead and talk about your chicken kebab, or Greek kebabs that you made. So let's talk about the tzatziki sauce. That's kind of first on our list here.
Yeah. So I personally, I grew up north, and so the gyros, tzatziki sauce, that was a pretty common food option for us up north. And so I've always loved it. I've always been a fan. I've tried making it in the past, but I think this is my favorite recipe, or favorite version of the recipe. So we start off with a cup of plain low-fat Greek yogurt. We shred the cucumber and try and get as much water out of it as possible, because we don't want it to separate in the sauce later.
That makes sense.
We add some garlic, some lemon juice, some dill, and a little bit of salt and pepper just to taste. Just so that way, the lemon and the garlic and the dill kind of shine in that dish.
That's where people have to be careful of not over-salting things.
Right. So, and again, the salt can dehydrate things. So we're already trying to dehydrate, to an extent, the cucumber, but if you're adding more salt, it's going to draw out more liquid from the cucumber, so it's going to make the sauce kind of separate a little bit.
I gotcha.
So we do want to take it easy on the salt, but just a little bit for that flavor.
And then the marinade you made for the chicken was actually fantastic.
I really enjoyed it too. I mean, it's packed with herbs and spices. We've got pepper, coriander, thyme, basil, oregano, olive oil, vinegar, more lemon juice, more garlic.
If it's Greek, it's in it, pretty much.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
We knocked them all out. So it can be maybe a little bit daunting seeing that many spices or herbs kind of in the recipe, but I promise you're going to get some big flavor coming from all those, and you won't miss the salt.
And I feel like most of these ingredients, at least the spices, people are probably going to have in their pantries anyway.
Yeah, maybe the coriander. I feel like that one might be a little bit out of some people's comfort zones, but I thought it was a great marinade, and we didn't let it marinate that long. Actually,
I was going to ask you, is this something that, because in the video we only did it for 10 minutes maybe.
Yeah, it wasn't very long.
But this is something people could potentially just marinate overnight if they want.
Exactly. Yeah. So the actual recipe says to marinate it in the refrigerator for at least 30 minutes.
Okay.
But it doesn't have to be 30 minutes. It can be longer than that. I mean, you're just going to get even more flavor. So definitely this can be prepped the night before, you know, and just kind of thrown on the grill or thrown in the oven, you know, right before you're going to eat it.
Perfect. And then the chicken and vegetables. Let's talk about that.
Yeah, so I love the look of like alternating the chicken with the vegetables on a kebab. But from a cooking perspective, we want to make sure that the chicken is cooked all the way through, and we want to make sure the vegetables aren't overdone. So I tend to cook the chickens all on one skewer, cook the vegetables on a different one, and then, you know, if it's presentation, you can kind of rearrange them.
Sure.
But it's a great way to make sure, you know, food safety is kept in mind. And then you can, you know, if you want to grill the chicken but not the vegetables, perfect. You can do it that way as well. The chicken and vegetable skewers were really easy. You just chop up some veggies, dice up the chicken, throw them on the skewers, and cook away.
I think we made them in the oven at the lift, but I love grilling food, and this would be a very easy pop them on the grill for however long it needs to be on there.
Yeah, and I think it would have had even more flavor if it was on the grill.
Yeah, a bit of that smokiness into it.
Yeah, unfortunately, we don't have that opportunity
Right.
at the lift, but it's still, I mean, grilling, baking, those are both going to be ways to cook your food to reduce the fat content. So always a benefit.
Awesome. So to kind of go along with the kebabs and the tzatziki sauce, there was also I'm just going to call it a vegetable salad, kind of Greek salad.
Yeah, like a Greek-inspired marinated salad.
And it was, I like meat, I like chicken. I think that little salad was probably my favorite part of it. It was very good.
I do
with flavor.
love that salad. I make it quite frequently at home. So that salad, we didn't have, I didn't think we had the time to make it in the video, but we will attach the recipe along with it, so you have access to that.
Like she said, the recipe to everything, including that salad, is going to be in the bottom in the description. But that salad comes with tomatoes, green peppers, onions, Kalamata olives. Is that some sort of like Italian dressing on top? Is that right?
It's going to be olive oil and vinegar.
Okay. And then it's topped with goat cheese. I've tried goat cheese. People claim that's what's at like Mexican restaurants. I don't know if I believe that because I really like cheese dip, I guess.
Queso, yeah.
But I'm not a major fan of, and it comes down to a texture thing again, of goat cheese. But I do love feta cheese.
Yeah.
Which are pretty synonymous.
They
Is
are,
that right?
yes, they're very similar. The feta is going to have more sodium or more salt, so that's why I chose the goat cheese. Also, the goat cheese is a little bit softer, but not by much. So if you do really enjoy feta and you're feeling adventurous, I mean, you might be already feeling adventurous trying this recipe in the first place.
Sure.
But if you're feeling extra adventurous, go ahead and try the goat cheese and see if you like it. Goat cheese is definitely becoming more of a staple at our house. Just lots of flavor.
So are there any like specific maybe cooking tips that you want to throw in there? I know written down here something about the skewers.
Yeah, absolutely. So just cooking tips in general. If you are not a chef by any means, it's usually helpful to kind of start small or start with an easier recipe you feel comfortable with and then start getting more adventurous. This is not a complicated recipe by any means. The only thing might just be the tzatziki sauce because of the cucumber. You got to, shred it and get rid of the extra water. But definitely not complicated. So if you're wanting to try and get more into home cooking, then this could be a great start for you. Just some general recipe tips about this one in this recipe in particular. We want to soak the wooden skewers to prevent them from splintering in the food. This also helps, especially if you're going to put it on the grill. We don't want those skewers to almost catch fire,
Right.
burn, anything like that.
I have done that accidentally one time.
Yeah.
And it was a very interesting afternoon.
So soaking them can help prevent that. With the tzatziki sauce, we'd already kind of mentioned, we want to squeeze as much water out as possible from the cucumber. That way the sauce won't separate or have any just like liquid sitting on top. It'll also give it, less of a like watered down flavor. It basically increases the actual flavorfulness of the dip. As long as it's not, because the excess water is just going to dilute everything down.
Sure.
We had talked about the marinated salad as kind of a side dish for this, but one of the recommendations is to incorporate whole grains. So why not also maybe have a little whole grain on the side? It could be paired with brown rice or whole grain pita chips to really round out the meal.
I love a good pita chip.
Exactly.
Dipping that in the tzatziki sauce or like getting real adventurous. Pita chip, sauce, chicken on.
Oh, yeah. Like a little pita sandwich.
Like a little, a Lunchable. Like a
Lunchable.
little Lunchable sandwich.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, this is really great. Allison, this was probably my favorite recipe of the day that we made. And I, for one, am probably going to try to make this weekend because it was really easy to make. It didn't take very long at all. And like you said, it's a little adventurous and it's just kind of fun and delicious. So thanks for sharing your knowledge with us. This is great. Thanks for listening to another episode of We Talk Health.